Hello guys, what's going on? Today I'm going to talk about consoles, but before I really get into that, I'm going to give you a bit of a fun fact about the gameplay that you see in the background. As you can see, the map is called the Abandoned Mill and it plays in London. That's where I live, and I thought it might be interesting to tell you that this location that you see here, this derelict factory, actually exists. It's very much inspired by a real factory that's derelict on the south side of the Thames in London. It's called the Millennium Mills. You can Google that. I'm going to put a few pictures of that in here anyway, so you can get an idea. And I just really love this kind of stuff when you see real life locations being adapted in games. It used to be, I think, a flour mill. It was built to the turn of the 20th century. I put a picture right here of how it looked in 1934 when it was in full bloom and fully operational. Now it's just derelict, like I said before. But anyway guys, enough of the history lesson. I just wanted to give you that as a background, but I'm now coming to the main topic of this video, which is consoles. And let me start off like this. I really like consoles. You know, I'm not a hater. I have no problem with consoles. I'm not on the Xbox side. I'm not on the PlayStation side because I'm not emotionally attached to consoles. I go to friends' plays and then occasionally sit on the couch, you know, and play a bit of Xbox or PlayStation. I enjoy these sessions. I do like to play these games. I owned a Wii in the past. I had a Super Nintendo, you know, Super NES. I had a Game Boy. I right now own a Vita. I really love my Vita. When I'm traveling around the city, I use it all the time. I really am no console hater or anything, so please hear me out in this video and just wait where I'm getting to before you post any rant comments and tell me that I have no idea and that consoles are the biggest, greatest thing ever and that the PC Master Race sucks, and because this is not what this video is about. I'm gonna start off with the advantages that I can see of owning a console, and you know, if I'm missing anything there, feel free to leave me a comment underneath. This is just the stuff that kind of came to my mind. When I'm at a friend's place, like I said, I sit on the couch. It's very comfortable. I play a PlayStation game and it just works. You know, you put the game in, there's a limited frame rate, which could be seen as an advantage or a disadvantage. It's kind of both, but essentially it just works, which is really, really good, because quite often on PCs you have it that something doesn't work and then you have to find out how it works and go through different forums, find a solution. So it just works. You play in a comfortable position, just hook it up to your TV. It's very, very convenient, right? That's definitely an advantage. Another advantage is that you have loads of exclusive titles. Till this day, I regret that I could never play Red Dead Redemption because it only came out on consoles, and it's just kind of really miserable for PC players that certain games, like also the Uncharted series or The Last of Us, could never be played because they are amazing games and I'd love to put my time into them, but I don't own the latest console, so I just can't. You know, I played Uncharted 1 at a friend's place and I did enjoy it, but since I don't own consoles myself, there's just no way of me playing these games. And that's basically the list of the advantages that I could come up with, and that takes me straight to the disadvantages. First thing on my list, and this is really, really a big point to me, is that games are generally more expensive on consoles. And it's not that you just play a bit more, you actually pay up to 20% more for certain types of games. And then if I look at my Steam sale that happens 4 times every year, I just see, you know, latest games that just been out for a month or two only cost, you know, £30 instead of 60 or 50 what the original price was, and I just feel like I'm making a really good deal and I feel treated very fairly as a gamer, not having to pay too much for the game that I really want. If you look at the Xbox sales, you know, they are like, oh yeah, the new game is just $45 instead of 60, and it's like, well, that's not really a good deal, mate. Like, make me a good deal and then I'd be willing to buy this game and put my money into it. But I personally, as a console player, would just feel cheated. And that red thread kind of continues through the accessories as well. When you buy an accessory like a gamepad or any kind of additional piece of hardware to your console, it's always overpriced. If you buy a gamepad for your console, you'll have to pay £60 for that. If I buy a gamepad for my PC, I can choose between 50 different gamepads that are in a price range from £100, the most deluxe version, down to £10, the very simplest version. So I like to have that freedom. When you're on a console, you don't have that freedom. There's one model, you can choose that gamepad in red, blue or orange or whatever it is, or with a certain pattern, but essentially they're all overpriced and you have no choice but buy these pieces of hardware. There's no modability on consoles, and that's the next point. You cannot only not change resolution or level of detail, I mean, obviously that feeds into the pro again, that it just works, it's a very simple thing, but at the same time, you can't mod anything, you can't access the original game code. If you look at things that Steam does with the Steam Workshop, where people are given open source code for so many games and they do amazing stuff with Skyrim, with GTA and so many more games, where they just create their own adaptations. It's a creative playground that is completely missing on consoles, and that's just something that I don't really appreciate, while understand why they do it and that not every company wants their game to be open source and moddable for everyone. It's still an element that I'm missing and that I feel should be somehow represented on consoles. I've seen recently that GTA 5 has something similar. You can build your own little adaptations of the maps, and you can see a lot of videos from like Inside Gaming where they play all these console mods, but it's just not the same. You know, the freedom that you have when modding a PC game is just so much bigger and so much more than you have on any console. Next element, again a money thing, is that you have to pay to be online. Whether it's Xbox Gold or the PlayStation Network, I don't know if they're charging already or if they just plan to charge money for their service in the future. It just costs extra money to be online and to play online. And if you have certain games like Call of Duty, obviously I would only play that online. And if I don't have Xbox Gold, I can't even play that game. So on top of the more expensive price of the game, I also have to calculate a monthly fee to play this game online. And that just seems weird to me. Why would I want that? And on top of that, if the PlayStation Network is down, as we've seen it in the past, you just can't play your games online. None of them, because they all run over the PSN or the Xbox Live or whatever it's called. And on PC, if the Call of Duty servers are down, right, I can still go over and play Titanfall or any other game. So again, there are options there. Next element, and that's a quite controversial one, is actually pro gaming. When I look, and that particularly applies to Call of Duty and all these games, when I look at like the Call of Duty Championship and all these big time MLG competitions out there, they are all played with gamepads. And while I have to say that the level of playing 3D shooters, like first person shooters with gamepads, is pretty high by now, I'm quite impressed how good these kids are, it's still not the maxed out skill. If you look at, for instance, gameplay of Quake 3 Arena on a competitive level where people play competitively with mouse and keyboard, it's double as fast, and the skill and the excitement in these games is just so much higher than in any Call of Duty game that is played on console. But obviously, again, kind of like in the previous points, it's a political thing, isn't it? Because these competitions are sponsored by Microsoft or by Sony. So obviously you're going to compete on the Xbox, right? There's no discussion. If Microsoft sponsors it, it's not about the maxed out skill level and proper gameplay. It's about having the product in the center of the competition. And that's just something that I personally don't like. Why do you force your product on me? I want to see the best possible gameplay and not your product kind of facilitating some gameplay that is not maxed out. And it's just something that annoys me personally. So not only that, your console is locked down and you have to swallow what Sony or Microsoft or Nintendo give you. If they choose to increase the game price by 20%, you will have to go with it. You know, whatever the reason is, they in 2 years say, oh yeah, the games got so much more difficult to produce, we now need to increase the price of all games. You have no choice. You're gonna go with it. I can still go to Steam, and if Steam is overpriced, then I can go to Origin, and if they are overpriced, I might be able to go to Amazon. I have many different options of purchasing these games, and while that might apply to all games, it still gives me a few more options where I can go and compare prices and try to get the best deal for me. And that actually feeds also into piracy, right? If they increase the games to a price that is unpayable, because I think it's completely ridiculous, I can always go and pirate that game. And with that, obviously, it's unfair, and I haven't pirated a game in the last 10 years, I think, or 8 years, or whatever it is. But I could, if I feel cheated by the publisher, by the development company, and I feel they increase the price to an extent where it's not realistic anymore, then I can just pirate the game and really damage them with that and show them that I'm not happy with the price policy they're having. On consoles, that's basically impossible because, you break your console, you can play pirated games, but then you can't go online anymore. So they lock that side of it down as well, and you basically have no choice but going with what you you get. So these are the disadvantages that I had on my list, and where this takes us to is that basically the whole conversation is about choices. On console, these companies like Microsoft, Sony and Nintendo try to take away as many choices from the gamers as possible. There are no options to buy games anywhere else. There are no options to buy hardware, accessories, games to a cheaper price. There is no competition. If you're on a system, that's what you get. If I build my own PC, and I understand that it's quite scary for a few people to build their own PC, but it's so easy these days. I can choose my own CPU. I can choose my own graphics card. I can choose whether I want to go to Steam or Origin. I can choose my own in-game settings. Do I want a lot of detail or medium detail, which then leads to higher frame rates or medium frame rates? How do I personally prefer to play that game experience? I can choose my operating system, right? Do I want to run on Linux? Do I want to run on a Mac system, or do I want to run Windows? There's always competition, and that's what keeps it alive, and that's what keeps it at a competitive level. That's why prices are cheap, and that's what puts pressure on development companies and on companies, you know, to not overprice their hardware. So overall, I personally feel even it's a bit scary to build your own PC, but partially it's everyone's responsibility, because by building your own PC, making your own choices and going slightly more the hard way, you are not supporting this idea of a monopole. You are saying, if you overprice the games and the hardware and do this, this and that, you can't do that with me. I'm a gamer, I want a good deal for myself, and I will take it in my own hands, learn about PC, build it by myself, and then get the advantages of that. And if that makes Sony and Microsoft or their, you know, console departments bankrupt in the long run, then that's what it is, because you guys made the wrong choices for me as a gamer, and now you pay the price for it. So I think partially it's everyone's responsibility to at least look into or consider buying a PC and switching from console to PC. Anyway, guys, like I said in the beginning, this is not really a rant. I know it sounds like one, and I know I always get kind of emotionally aroused when I talk about these kind of topics. But like I said, I love consoles. I don't want to hate on consoles. It's just the politics behind it that sometimes confuse me and that sometimes make me a bit angry, because I don't understand how people can just blindly follow these ideas and these concepts. I've asked my friends why they play on consoles, and they say, well, mate, I've always been a console player. I'm emotionally attached to consoles, and I've never owned a PC, and it's just kind of the easy way out. The next generation, I'll buy it anyway. And I personally think that's a bit of a black and white way of looking at it. In the past, it was more justified to own a console. The PCs weren't that far, and it was much more fiddly to get games to work and to understand how hardware works, and to build a PC was much more complicated. Nowadays, it's much easier. You should think twice before you just buy a console and just blindly put your dimes on the next generation console, simply because there are options and there's always a better way out. Anyway, guys, I hope that you can leave me a comment. You can let me know what you think. Please keep it productive. Don't get all aggressive and tell me that I'm a massive cock and that I have no idea about gaming and consoles and that it's just stupid what I'm saying, because it's not. There are valid points, and it would be great if you could just let me know what you think, and then we could have like a productive discussion about this topic. So I'd appreciate if you leave me a like. If you liked the video, you can subscribe to my channel for more. Thanks, guys, for watching this video. I see you guys next time, and I'm out. Bye.